destination. It's something you experience gradually over time. And here's how real success is built. By the time you get the feedback, the real work's already done. When you get to the point where everyone else can see your results, tell you what good choices you've made, notice your good fortune, slap you on the back and tell you how lucky you are, the critical slight edge choices you made are ancient history. And chances are, at the time you actually made those choices, nobody noticed but you. And even you wouldn't have noticed unless you understood the slight edge. It's never too late to start. It's always too late to wait. Chapter 4. The Secret of the Penny. I've presented the story of the penny doubled every day to hundreds and hundreds of audiences, and I often hear a comment like this: "Wow, that's amazing. To think that you could start with nothing and build a fortune." That's not quite accurate. You don't start with nothing. You start with a penny. Oh, no big deal. I mean, of course, you start with a penny. But you know, it's basically starting with nothing. No, it's not. It's starting with a penny. It may seem like an insignificant difference, although you're probably starting to have a little bit different view of the word insignificant. The truth is, it makes all the difference. You have to start with a penny. To accomplish anything worth accomplishing, to create success, to achieve your dreams, you don't have to do impossible, extraordinary, superhuman things. But you have to do something. You have to start with a penny. Success doesn't come from nowhere. It can't be conjured up out of thin air. It comes from a very small, tiny beginning. But there has to be a beginning. That beginning is the thing people miss, the thing they don't see. And they don't see it because it's so tiny, it's almost invisible. There was a time, a certain number of years ago, when a tiny blob of gelatin began to pulse with hidden potential. It was barely more than a speck of matter, about the thickness of a dollar bill, at the very threshold of human sight. Any smaller, and it would have been invisible to the naked eye. Though tiny, this insignificant little dot of matter, you could have fit about 20 of them on the head of a pen, contained chemical instructions that, if printed out, would have filled more than 500,000 pages. In fact, it was among the most organized, complex structures in the universe. Over the next 9 months of slight edge compounding, this little blob of gelatin would blossom into over 30 trillion cells before being born into the open air and letting out a wail as it took its first breath. It would become you. You started as a penny. Chapter 5. Someday when I have the money. Someday when I have the time. Someday when I have the skill, the confidence. Have I got shocking news for you? Someday doesn't exist, never has, and never will. There is no someday. There is only today. When tomorrow comes, it will be another day. So will the next day. They all will. There is never anything but today. And some more shocking news. Your ship's not coming in. It's already here, docked and waiting. You already have the money. You already have the time. You already have the skill, the confidence. You already have everything you need to achieve everything you want. You just can't see it. Why not? Because you're looking in the wrong place. You're looking for the breakthrough, the quantum leap. You're looking for the winning lottery ticket in a game that isn't a lottery. Successful people have already grasped the truth that lottery players have not. Life is not a lottery. Success is not a random accident. A big break, the lucky break, the breakthrough, a break in the routine, a break with reality. But that's not how things really work. Okay then, how do things really work? Look at some real-world problems. William Wilberforce spent his entire career introducing bill after bill to his colleagues in the British Parliament in his efforts to end slavery, only to have them defeated one after the other. From 1788 to 1806, he introduced a new anti-slavery motion and watched it fail every single year for 18 years in a row. Finally, 3 days before Wilberforce's death in 1833, Parliament passed a bill to abolish slavery, not only in England, but also throughout its colonies. 3 decades later, a similar bill would pass in the United States, spearheaded by another man of conscience who had also spent much of his life failing: Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. These were human problems, and they had human solutions, but the only access to them is through the slight edge. All of these real-life heroes understood the slight edge. None of them was hypnotized by the allure of the big break. If they had been, they would never have continued taking the actions they took. And what would the world look like today? Our cultural mythology, the philosophy our society subscribes to as a group, worships the breakthrough, even when we don't realize that's what we're doing. One small step for man. Nonsense. That wasn't one small step. The guy was on the moon. That was one gigantic step for man, a genuine breakthrough. The small step was when some guy, someone you and I never heard of, first started tinkering with design ideas for how a rocket ship might withstand the intense conditions of spaceflight. There were thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of one small steps for years and years beforehand that all went into that epic 1969 leap of Neil Armstrong's that was televised throughout the world and is still being played over and over in our culture as one of the most deeply ingrained news bites of history. But we don't celebrate any of those real small steps. We don't even know what they are or who made them. The myth of our culture is the giant step, the larger-than-life leap, the heroic effort. No success is immediate, nor is any failure instantaneous. They are both products of the slight edge. The truth of quantum leaps is that they are not larger than life. They're submicroscopic. The actual term quantum leap comes from particle physics, and it does not refer to a huge epic jump. It refers to the fact that energy, after a period of time, will suddenly appear at another level, without our having been able to observe how it got there. It is an exact description of how the water hyacinth moves from day 29 to day 30. Believing in the big break is worse than simply being futile. It's actually dangerous because it can keep you from taking the actions you need to take to create the results you want. Our society is sliding rapidly into an ever-increasing economic crisis of poor health. Endemic adult onset diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and a score of other chronic illnesses have steadily fed a monstrously overgrown healthcare system, tax system, and social security system, and there isn't a single cause anywhere in sight. As I'm writing this, early in 2005, several of our most widely used over-the-counter drugs have suddenly been found to make things worse. The drumbeat litany goes on as it has for decades. A cure is just around the corner. We're so close. The latest research says, with your dollars, we'll soon see a breakthrough. A cure is not just around the corner. The cure is right here, under our noses and on our plates. There is no mystery for those who know how to recognize the slight edge at work. Our entire health crisis is nothing but one set of little decisions made daily and compounded daily, winning out over another set of little decisions made daily and compounded daily. Chapter 6. 2 Life Paths. There was a time when the people of the world were convinced the sun revolved around the earth. A few visionaries stubbornly refused to accept what was obvious to everyone else. And because Copernicus, Galileo, and a handful of others risked their lives to choose the road less traveled, the rest of the world eventually caught on to what is now obvious to everyone in the 21st century. The Earth revolves around the sun. What's more, in the last 100 years, we've discovered that even space is curved, though that one's still a little hard for most people to wrap their minds around. The truth is, everything is curved. There is no true straight line. Everything is changing, including your life. You are on a journey, your life path. That path is a curve. You're curving either upward or downward. It may seem to you that today was much like yesterday. It wasn't. It was different. Every day is. Appearances can be deceiving, and almost always are. There may be times when things seem to be on a steady, even keel. This is an illusion. In life, there is no such thing as staying in the same place. There are no straight lines. Everything curves. If you're not increasing, you're decreasing. Above and below the slight edge. Wherever you may be in your own life, understanding the slight edge gives you the tools to start fresh, right now, and place yourself firmly on the upper curve. The upper curve is the formula for success. A few simple disciplines repeated every day. The lower curve is the formula for failure. A few simple errors in judgment repeated every day. The upper curve represents that 1% out of 20, the 5% who are successful and happy at the end of their lives. The lower curve represents the other 19, the 95% who reach their golden years angry and bitter and have no idea or concept of how they got there or why. Life, it seems to them, is unfair, and that's just how it is. But you and I know that's not the case. It's not a matter of being fair or unfair. It's pure geometry, the geometry of time. Most people hold time as their enemy. They seek to avoid the passage of time and strive to have results now. That's a choice based on a philosophy. Successful people understand that time is their friend. In every choice I make, every course of action I take, I always have time in mind. Time is my ally. That, too, is a choice based on a philosophy. Time will be your friend or your enemy. It will promote you or expose you. It depends purely upon which side of this curve you decide to ride. It's entirely up to you. If you're doing the simple disciplines, time will promote you. If you're doing the few simple errors in judgment, time will expose you, no matter how well you appear to be doing right now. Time is the great equalizer. Chapter 8. Faces of the Slight Edge. There are several faces of the slight edge I want to point out to you, because they each represent a power that, once you recognize it in your life, you can harness in your pursuit of your dreams. They are momentum, completion, habit, reflection, and celebration. Harness the power of momentum. Who won the race, the tortoise or the hare? We all know the answer to that one. Yet we live in a world where most everyone has come to expect instant this and instant that. And if we don't get the results we're after faster and faster, we quit. The slight edge is simple disciplines compounded over time. That's how the tortoise won. That's how you get to be a winner too. Having said that, let me ask this. What's the real point of the story of the tortoise and the hare? All together now. Slow and steady wins the race, right? But notice something here. The point is not that there's any special virtue to moving slowly. There's nothing inherently good about slowness, and it's just as possible to move too slowly as to move too quickly. The key word in the Aesop moral is not slow, it's steady. Steady wins the race. That's the truth of it. The fable of the tortoise and the hare is really about the remarkable power of momentum. A body at rest tends to stay at rest, and a body in motion tends to remain in motion. That's why your activity is so important. Once you're in motion, it's easy to keep on keeping on. Once you stop, it's hard to change from stop to go. A Chinese proverb says it well. Be not afraid of going slowly. Be afraid only of standing still. In my business, I coach people how to build large organizations one person at a time, with very simple, easy-to-do actions done every day. I've found that it's far more effective to take one business-building action every day for a week than to take 7 or 10 or even 24 all at once and then take the rest of the week off. People who do the first, week in and week out, build an organization. People who do the second don't, even if they actually take a greater number of those business-building actions than the other people. Why not? No momentum. After 6 days off, they have to start all over again. getting themselves geared up and inspired to get back into action. It can take a good amount of energy